The UFC held its biggest event of the year Saturday inside Madison Square Garden, and it didn't disappoint. With multiple upsets, knockouts, and division-altering bouts, the framework of the UFC has been forever altered by UFC 322. Hello and welcome back to Penn State Sports Tonight. I'm Alec Brown, joined alongside Carter Patterson and Luke Stefanisko. But guys, UFC 322 was full of great fights and moments. So what stood out to you guys from this card specifically?
I'm just going to start with the Prates versus Edwards fight. Prates was just absolutely electric, and he's just an electric fighter, as we see after he has 3 straight knockouts now. And he's just been one of those guys that's just been entertaining to the crowd. You know, he gets on the mic after the fight, and it's just like the crowd just loves him. I mean, and this is a guy who doesn't, like the Islam fight, it's not boring to watch. You know, he has the potential with the heavy hitting for a knockout, which is fun to watch. The interesting thing to me was Edwards had 2 successful takedowns. He was controlling the pace of the fight a little bit, and then all of a sudden, you saw Prates kind of find his advantage in that long reach. He's a very lengthy guy, and when he shut Edwards' lights off, it was absolutely insane. Edwards literally went on the canvas and was smiling. But the thing I noticed was when he knocked him out, it didn't even seem like Edwards was in reach to hit him back. Like, this was, his length just was absolutely unreal when he shut Edwards' lights off.
I mean, yeah, Prates is really, really impressive. I mean, that knockout was crazy. You didn't expect it. I mean, I was at Dave & Buster's watching this fight, and I think the entirety of the venue just went nuts watching that because you don't expect it. Leon Edwards, a grizzled veteran of the UFC, and his lights went out in a split second. But I want to talk about Ethan Ewing. Now, this was a big-time fight for Ethan Ewing, who wasn't even in the UFC a week ago. He was fighting in an amateur MMA organization, got a huge win there to win the title in that division. Dana White called him up and said, hey, we need a replacement. Malcolm Wellemaker's opponent, Cody Haddon, dropped out. Boom. Ethan Ewing is fighting in the UFC in less than a week. And guess what? He did not disappoint. He showed up, stood toe-to-toe with one of the better boxers in that division in Malcolm Wellemaker, and he dished out a lot of punishment. Took some as well, but he ended up winning the fight by unanimous decision. But despite it being a decision, I think it was still the most entertaining fight of the night. I mean, both those guys had an incredible fight together, and it was just great to watch. And I'm glad Ethan Ewing got the win because it's kind of a feel-good story to go on for the UFC. And people love to see those feel-good stories in the UFC. It can really boost your momentum and, at the end of the day, even sway yourself in the rankings.
Well, kind of a sweet story on both sides, Steph, just because, well, Wellmaker was just this kind of older prospect that we haven't really seen before, had a bunch of good knockouts, and then obviously Ethan Ewing comes out of nowhere, actually a replacement fight for Wellmaker as well, and to do what he did against just a highly touted prospect like that, we haven't really seen that in a couple months since someone like Peyton Talbot losing to Ryan Barcelos. And then go back to your point, just with Carl Prates, I mean, who else would you want winning those fights? I mean, not only does he have the KO power, but he also has the swagger too. I mean, look at him right there doing the same bow and arrow pose as Alex Poatan Pereira does all the time, and then also does some fun off the octagon activities that we won't mention here, obviously. But I just want to hear what you guys think the aftermath of UFC 322 will be as well. Who are some fighters that fans should be looking out for in the next upcoming fights?
Oh, well, I'll just kick it off by saying that Islam fight was kind of boring to the fans, and there was a lot of booing going on, but that's his way of winning these fights, and he has no issue with that. I mean, as you see, double champ, you're not ever going to have an issue with being a double champ, and whether the fans like it or not, that was a pure dominant fight from him. He controlled the ground, and it gave me similar vibes to that Hamzat versus DDP fight from just a month or 2 ago. It was just complete domination. He controlled the ground, and you could hear JDM's coach's corner. They were telling him about the takedowns, and that's the scary thing. He knew it was coming, and he still had zero answer for what Islam was bringing. He knew the takedown was coming, and he just looked lost out there. He wasn't able to land any combos, and Islam pretty much just had his way the entire fight and controlled about 17 or 18 minutes out of the 25, which is absurd.
I think from the moment that first takedown was successful for Islam, that fight was over. We saw it in the Hamzat DDP fight. Those takedowns are just such momentum builders for those guys because once you get one, it kind of opens the floodgates for the rest of the match, and it was just rough for JDM. I really, really respect him. He fought really well against the grappler in Bilal Muhammad, but in this fight, he looked really out of his depth. But another welterweight that really surprised me was Michael Morales. He went into this card facing Sean Brady, the number 2 ranked welterweight prospect, and he knocked him out in the first round. Now, I personally thought that Sean Brady was going to really use his grappling in this fight. he didn't have the chance. Michael Morales kept him at range, used the reach advantage, and really just punished Sean Brady anytime he entered into the range of Michael Morales, and that ended up in a knockout. I honestly think if you go for a title fight that is made tomorrow by Dana White in the UFC, I think it's Michael Morales and Islam Makhachev for that welterweight title. I mean, it's kind of a logjam at the top of that division. I mean, you have a couple guys already booked, Bilal Muhammad, Ian Gary, we'll talk about them a little bit later. Leon Edwards just lost. Sean Brady just lost to Michael Morales. I think that should catapult him up the rankings and give him a title shot, and I'm very excited to see what he does in this welterweight division.
Well, I mean, the welterweight division is completely opened up just because of this card. I mean, we can just take it step by step. Islam can face, honestly, a lot of people on the screen. I mean, Ian Gary, Bilal Muhammad, both can be deserving in their own right. Bilal was the former champion, obviously, and he did have to wait a while for his title shot, so that could obviously be in the case. Carlos Peratas just being such an entertaining fighter. Same thing with Michael Morales, but he does have a little bit of a better win. I think at this point you probably rate Sean Brady a little bit more than Leon Edwards because the two fought in March and you saw what happened there. And then obviously Shavkat Rakhmonov, where has he been? Is he just going to be eating horse meat all the time in Kazakhstan, or is he actually going to come out of injury and fight someone? And I think that's what we're really trying to look forward to and see next.
Yeah, but I just wanted to throw some props to JDM about the fight the other night, just because it seemed like throughout that whole fight he was slowly getting demoralized as the time went on. But I'm not sure, as the announcers were saying, he might have had a calf injury from those kicks that Islam was throwing at the beginning of the fight. They were heavy kicks, and you could hear them landing, and it was just it was unfortunate to see JDM get demoralized throughout the fight went on, but I'm not sure there might have been an underlying injury that we don't know of during that fight.
No, I completely agree. I mean, you do want to kind of speculate stuff like that because what happened in the Alex Pereira fight and Magomed Ankalaev fight the first time they fought, apparently Alex Pereira was very injured, and that was almost kind of clear when you watch the fight back, especially seeing how the second fight went, so that definitely could be a possibility. We'll probably hear more about that later. But enough of UFC 322. Let's move on to UFC Qatar. It'll be headlined by Dan Hooker versus Arman Tsarukyan. Co-main event will be Bilal Muhammad versus Ian Machado Gary. Guys, I want to hear what you guys think about this huge fight night card coming up and the implications it might have for the future.
Well, I'll just kick it off with the Bilal one. I think that this whole entire fight night is very under the radar right now and it's quiet. It has massive implications for both weight classes here. You look at Muhammad and Hooker in the welterweight, whoever wins this fight, they might instantly propel themselves to the top of those rankings for the next shot at Islam. And then you look at the Gary and Arman fight, that in the lightweight is another one where one of these guys wins this, they might propel themselves to the shot against Ilya. Arman had his shot, backed out with injury, and he's been kind of chomping at the bit a little bit to get that title shot. I think this is a big fight for him, like kind of a prove-it fight for him to just one more win, and then he has that shot against Ilya.
I think Ian Gary is really underrated in a lot of people's eyes. I mean, he is super, super talented. That loss to Shavkat Rakhmonov, a really, really tough loss. I think it just made him better. He took Carlos Peratas into deep waters, almost lost in that fifth round, but he won that fight pretty convincingly. I think he's someone that can actually fight with Islam Makhachev and stand a chance. Very solid on the feet, very solid on the ground. He's really an all-around guy. I think he's a great mouthpiece. I think if the UFC wants to push somebody to a title shot after a fight with Bilal Muhammad maybe, I think it is Ian Gary. I think he'd be a fun contender for Islam. They'd have some pretty good bouts over the mic. I don't doubt Bilal Muhammad in this fight, but I think Ian Gary is really, really underrated, and I could definitely see him taking advantage of this fight wherever it goes. If Bilal tries to stand up, like in that JDM fight, or if he tries to go to the ground like Leon Edwards, I think Ian Gary holds a pretty good advantage there. And this Dan Hooker-Arman Tsarukyan fight is also a wild card, honestly. Both these guys have had some weird wins and some weird losses. For the past few years, Dan Hooker split decision win against Gamrot. Arman Tsarukyan was supposed to fight Islam Makhachev, backed out of that fight. Before that, he beat Charles Oliveira, another title contender there in lightweight. I do think Arman Tsarukyan wins this fight. Dan Hooker is a great boxer in his own right, but I do think Arman is a better fighter all around. He's going to take advantage. He's the younger guy. He's hungry for a title shot. He's been making a lot of noise on social media about wanting that title shot in between the videos of him eating lavish foods and in luxury cars because his father is Crown Prince. But, he's hungry. He's going to get this win and probably end up fighting down the line with Ilia Topuria for that title.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Arman will try and take it. His game is the grappling, and I think that's going to be a big advantage in this fight. I think he'll take Hooker to the ground, and he will just dominate. I don't see it really being close. I think Arman, like I said, I think he's very hungry right now, and I think he's going to use that to advantage and get a win. And then for the Bilal one, I'm going to roll with the hot Gary. I'm rolling with your point. I think that he has the height advantage, and I think Bilal, he's coming off a close loss to JDM, but I think Gary will take this one pretty confidently.
Well, unfortunately, that is all the time we have talked about for UFC, but the aftermath of UFC 322 will forever be felt among fighters and fans alike for years to come. The welterweight division will be exciting to watch and predict as the UFC schedule unfolds. Be sure to stay tuned with Penn State Sports Tonight for more UFC coverage. For Connor Patterson and Lou Stefanisko, I'm Alec Brown. Have a great night.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night.
For more content like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a like, and follow our socials down below.
And as always, we are
Penn State Sports Night.